All right, welcome. A little bit late on the stream. Had to sort out a couple of things with setting up. But anyway, finally got the stream going. So, a lot of stuff happening in boxing at the moment. So, I just thought I'd do a midweek stream because I haven't done a midweek stream for a while. Of course, the weekend, Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. So, we'll get into that. And also the pre fights to that. Um, and my thoughts on the whole fight and the promotion and everything of it. So let's start off with the initial fight of the night. The first fight that was actually broadcast was Mario Barrios versus Abel Ramos, and this was a great start to the night. What a great fight! Marius Barrios knocking down Abel Ramos. I think it was in the second round, but then just did not continue that onslaught and then let Abel Ramos come back. And then Abel Ramos was able to knock him down, I think, in the sixth round and just start coming on strong. That was a very entertaining fight. And yeah, so Abel Ramos came back. Then it was a bit back and forward between the two. I thought Abel Ramos might have stolen it and gotten away with a win, but it ended up being a draw. So there's definitely a lot of people that want to see that fight again. Redo that fight. That was a good fight, and it was a good start to the night. I really enjoyed that one. And then after that, the Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano kicked off, and the fights just got better. So that was an awesome fight. Bit of controversy towards the end. People thinking that Amanda Serrano got ripped off. I don't know. From my live stream, when I was actually doing the live stream and watching it, I thought Katie Taylor just landed the better combinations or the cleaner shots initially in the first stages of that fight. Amanda Serrano is just a warrior. She just kept on throwing punches throughout the whole fight, where Katie Taylor was just had those combinations, and I think at the start were very accurate. But then Amanda Serrano started coming on towards the middle stages, I think, and then I felt that Katie Taylor started to come back a bit. And then obviously there was a lot of controversy with Katie Taylor leading with her head, which she was using her head a bit in the clinch. You could sort of see leaning on her with her head, and obviously being a southpaw versus an orthodox, there's always going to be head clashes, but she may have been leading in with her head a bit too much, especially towards the end. It was a bit evident that she was, maybe it's because she was tired, she was coming in with her head a bit, and that cut on Amanda Serrano was huge. That eye was just hanging down. And I actually thought they were going to stop the fight, but no, they continued the fight, and yeah, she wanted to keep going, Amanda Serrano, and just her toughness. She showed her toughness. She just kept on throwing punches even with that cut. Just kept going. So that was probably the fight of the night, I would say, between the three fights that were aired. That was an awesome fight. So that was good. Two fights leading up to it. And then obviously we have the Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul fight. So, yep, going into the Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul fight, I think a lot of people just expected a lot more to happen. And I guess you could kind of blame that on the build up and social media and everything else, and clips of Tyson training and how good he looked in training. But all in all, I mean, the guy is 58. So if you take a step back and just think this is a 58-year-old guy going in against what, a 27-year-old guy, a lot younger than him. So, and just I think Tyson overall, I think he did well for his age. Like, I think the person that made it a boring fight was Jake Paul. Jake Paul, being the younger fighter, should have maybe pressed a bit more, but he just seemed like he was fighting scared. Seemed like he didn't want a bar of Tyson. And yeah, maybe because it's Tyson, like he doesn't want to get hit by Tyson. He copped a couple of shots, and I understand that in the first maybe 1 or 2 rounds, but when Tyson, towards the middle and the back end of the fight, when he wasn't doing as much and struggling to get in on the inside, I just felt like Jake Paul just made it a boring fight. He could have just done a lot more. And you could even hear the crowd booing because it, it Tyson just couldn't get close. Tyson was trying to work his way in, trying to use his jab. And if you look at the stats, like Tyson missed a whole heap of jabs. Like his percentage at one point, I think it was like 8% in one of the rounds, or maybe in total it was 8%. But that wasn't because he was trying to throw to land. He was trying to throw to get in on the inside. And at his age, it's a lot harder for him to get in on the inside, especially when he has balance issues. And there was obviously something wrong. He had an injury. Obviously had I think it was his right leg. He had that strapped up. So that it's a lot harder for him to try and get in on the inside, trying to work his way in. I mean, he's not as young as he used to be. And Jake Paul just used his footwork to get away from him and didn't want to turn it into a fight. Didn't want to go toe to toe with him. Make it an entertaining fight. I mean, you've got all these people watching. Yeah, maybe he did back off towards the end. He doesn't want to knock out Tyson. He doesn't want to be the bad guy. But he kind of made it a boring fight. So, I mean, yeah. You've got all those viewers. You're getting paid $40 million. Tyson's getting paid $20 million. People want to see a fight. And I kind of think that if Jake Paul kind of not let Tyson come on, but maybe got in himself and came forward a bit more himself, probably would have been more entertaining, because it would have allowed Tyson to actually land and display some of his skills that he'd been working on and training on. I mean, you can train as much as you want, but then if you can't get close enough to the guy to actually land those punches that you've been practicing and those combinations, then it doesn't matter. Like, what's the point? So, yeah, I think Jake Paul made that a bit of a boring fight. But kudos to Tyson. Honestly, for his age, I think he's done great. I think he's done an awesome job. So, yeah, it's him going up against the younger fighter, and the younger fighter made it a boring fight. And I think that's it for Tyson as well. Whether he has another fight or not, I don't know. But looking at if you look at his last tweet, and I'm sure people have shown this on social media and stuff like that, pretty much stating that he's not going to fight again. Just saying that this is one of the situations when you lost, but you still won. I'm grateful for last night. No regrets to get in the ring one last time. So he's saying one last time. So I'm assuming that's it. He's not planning on getting back in the ring. I mean, money talks. Maybe if he had a massive offer, he probably would. But I don't think there's much interest for him to get back in there. And I think people have seen him and how he has gone against Jake Paul. And there's not going to be as much interest to see him go against another young fighter or another fighter, maybe not as young, but maybe a little bit older than Jake or whatever. But I don't think there's any, there's not any, I don't know, taste for Tyson to get back in there. People have seen it. People have been disappointed. So I think that's it. And he stated that's the last time he gets in the ring, and he's made his money, so he can just walk away. So, but yeah, good on him. I think he did well, all in all, for how old he is. So you got to give that to him. Anyway, moving on. So moving on to the cruiserweight division. So we had Chris Billum-Smith versus Gilbert Ramirez. So they fought for the unification title on the weekend, and Gilbert Ramirez ended up edging out Chris Billum-Smith by points, which leaves an interesting scenario in the cruiserweight division now. So we are kind of getting closer to we've got a unification now, so we're kind of getting closer to an undisputed situation. So I'm assuming Ramirez is going to fight Jai Opetaia. So he's already mentioned after the fight that he's willing to fight Jai Opetaia. Jai Opetaia has commented back and said that he is willing to fight Ramirez, but he has to take his mandatory fight next. So I'm not sure who the mandatory fight is for Jai Opetaia. It hasn't been announced yet, so waiting out on that and see who he actually fights for his mandatory, and then we'll have a unification bout with the 3 belts, the WBA, the IBF, and the WBO. And then after that, if a winner comes out of that, it's not a draw, then we only have the WBC title that is left from Noel McKeown. So we're getting close to an undisputed situation in the cruiserweight. And Ramirez, between Ramirez and Jai Opetaia, I think Jai Opetaia definitely has the edge. He's just a bigger puncher. I think Ramirez hasn't been in the division long enough, and probably isn't at the same level as Jai Opetaia. I mean, Ramirez is a lot more experienced, but I don't think he's not the better fighter, I don't think. Like, watching him and watching highlights from his fight on the weekend, it was a close contended fight. But I just think that Ramirez is probably a good style for Jai Opetaia, and I think Jai Opetaia will go well against him when those two clash, if those two clash. Hopefully, when those two clash. So that'll be next year at some point, hopefully. But yeah, I see Jai Opetaia putting over Ramirez, I think, for that fight. And then if that's the case, then Jai Opetaia just needs to go for that WBC title, and then that's it. And there was also mention, I've seen somewhere there was an interview with Alexander Usyk claiming that he's willing to come back down to cruiserweight after his fight with Fury. So that will be an interesting situation if that does occur. And whether I don't know. I just seen an article on that. I don't know how true that is. But if that does happen, that will be interesting for the cruiserweight division, especially if someone has the undisputed at that point. It's not the undisputed is not going to occur probably earliest middle of next year if there is going to be an undisputed champion of the cruiserweight division. So maybe Alexander Usyk might come back down to the cruiserweight division once there is someone crowned as undisputed, and try and slip straight in and fight them and get all 4 belts back. That would be an interesting scenario. So wait out on that and see what happens. But I think Jai Opetaia is the king of the division, the IBF and also the Ring Magazine champion. So he has the potential to be undisputed, and him fighting Alexander Usyk, I think that would be an awesome clash if it does end up that way. But there's still fights to happen, and it could go anyway. This is boxing, so who knows? So Ramirez, 47 wins, 1 loss, 30 KOs, so he doesn't have a massive KO ratio, but he does have a lot of experience. But watching some of his fights and some of his highlights, he has the experience, but he does have a few flaws. And he is a tough fighter though, typical tough Mexican. So that'll be an interesting clash if he takes on Jai Pataya. We have Jai Pataya 26 wins, 20 KOs, no losses. So he's got roughly a 77% KO ratio. So he is the stronger, more dangerous fighter between the two. So see what happens. And then we have the WBC champion in the cruiserweight division, who stands at 27 wins and 2 losses. So Noel McCallan. So yeah, the 3 guys in the division that hold the titles currently might go down to one person probably mid next year, but we'll see. All right, so then moving on to the next fight we have, or next Aussie fight we have at least anyway. So Paro versus Hitchens. Had a bit of a look at the both of these fighters. I've seen Paro a bit before in the past, but Hitchens, I hadn't really seen much of him. So I think Paro is the classier, more skilled fighter. And I think Hitchens was lucky to come away with the win from his last fight as well. So he seems to hold a lot as well. That's another a bit of a tactic of Hitchens. So I think Paro will, I'm assuming, be preparing for Hitchens to try and hold a lot, try and tie him up. Hitchens does have a bit of a reach. I think he has a reach advantage over him, but he does have a good long jab. Does use his length a little bit, but yeah, just seems to clinch and tie up a fair bit, which isn't too bad for Paro. I think he just has to work on the inside and throw those combinations on the inside, or step back when he tries to hold, or use those angles, spin him around, and then throw as he spins him. So it's going to be a good tactical fight, I think. But I think Paro will come away. I think Paro is the better fighter out of the two, and I think he'll come away with it. And then, yeah, see what happens after that. If Paro does win, who he takes on next. So that's on the 7th of December, so coming up in a couple of weeks. So that'll be an interesting one, and I think I'll do a live stream for that. All right, so moving on to the next one. So Alexander Usyk versus Fury is obviously the next big fight that's coming up. The last fight was good. It was entertaining. Fury won. Sorry, Alexander Usyk won. Fury lost. Alexander Usyk showed his skills and got so close to knocking out Fury. And there was a bit of controversy with that as well. People thinking that he should have been knocked out. And maybe it was because of how the ref actually ref the fight. But, I mean, it's Fury, and I think Fury is, I don't know, off and on. He's hot and cold. He can have some awesome fights and do so well, but then there's other times he can just have some shocking fights and not do so well, and then it makes you look at him as like, oh, okay, maybe he's not as good as I thought he was. So it wouldn't surprise me if Fury comes out better than comes out fighting better than he did in the previous fight. This is kind of, I think I would edge Usyk, but it's still kind of a 50-50 fight for me. It could go either way, and it's all going to depend on Fury and how he performs on the night, and how dedicated he is to this fight, in terms of his training. And yeah, and probably the performance on the night is probably going to be the big question, I think, for me. But hopefully they both come out fighting well on the night and make it very entertaining, which I'm sure they will. But it can kind of go either way, I think, for this fight. I know a lot of people are probably tipping Usyk, but it's almost a 50-50 fight for me. Just because Fury lost the previous fight doesn't necessarily mean he's going to lose their rematch. So this is an interesting one, and there's a lot on the line. But for Usyk, I mean, if he's looking at going down to the cruiserweight division, I guess it's not as important. Like, if he'd lost, he's not going to, and he's not planning on continuing in the heavyweight. I mean, he's achieved what he wanted to achieve in terms of getting the undisputed. So maybe his motivation isn't there as much as Fury. And again, it's not even, this won't be an undisputed title either. So this won't be for all the belts. Because it was the IBF, I think it was. IBF that was stripped from Usyk almost straight away, which Triple D now has. So then that's the next thing in the mix is, it's kind of, if Fury wins and then takes on Triple D, that'll be a massive fight in the UK. But then you still throw AJ into the mix. People are still interested in seeing AJ fight Fury. So, and I think that's probably a better case scenario if Fury loses. Take on AJ. I mean, people still have a lot of taste for that fight, because if Fury loses to Usyk, that means Fury's lost to Usyk twice, AJ's lost to Usyk twice, Fury hasn't fought Triple D, so we don't know the outcome of that. So it's still an interesting clash having Fury take on AJ. And I think that'll be a massive fight in the UK. That'll be huge. So maybe it is a better scenario if Fury loses and takes on AJ. But I guess we'll see how that goes. But that's the next big fight, and that's on the 21st of December, I believe. So, yeah, that'll be a good one. Can't wait for that. So I'll talk about that later. And then Christmas Eve, we have Inoue versus Goodman. Yeah, this will be a good clash. I mean, Goodman's from Wollongong. He's from my hometown, so I'll definitely be cheering Goodman on and hoping that he wins. But the monster, in a way, it's just hard to see him losing. And I don't know. I don't know if, I mean, Goodman's a good fighter, but I don't think he's good enough to beat Inoue. I think Inoue's skill level is just a bit above Goodman, and I don't think Goodman will be able to keep up with Inoue. I think Inoue will, unfortunately, beat him. And he's really going to test the toughness of Goodman. I mean, Goodman is a tough fighter. He's fought a lot of tough fights. And we haven't really seen, I don't know if he's been dropped. I can't recall if he's been dropped. But we haven't really seen him like really hurt in the past. So I think this fight's really going to test his toughness. And whether he can keep up with Inoue and not get stopped by Inoue, because Inoue is just, he just suits his name, the monster. Like, he's just unbelievable. And there's a lot of big things for him. So a lot of people are looking past Goodman. So that, I guess that's another thing. He's the underdog, and it's never good for a fighter to look past another fighter. And maybe that's an advantage for Goodman. Maybe Goodman would be hoping, hey, I hope this guy's looking past me and looking towards things beyond me, because then that's kind of a disadvantage because they're not focusing on the fight. They're not focusing on the person in front of them. But I still think in a way we'll win. Potentially by knockout, but we don't know how tough Goodman is because he hasn't been pushed right to those limits in terms of a strong power puncher like Inoue. So this is going to be an interesting test for Goodman. But I'm like I said, I'm backing Goodman, or I'm cheering on Goodman. I'm hoping he wins it, but yeah, it's a tough test for him. So good luck to him with that. And then after that, in the new year, on the 1st of February, we have David Benavidez versus David Morrell. So these are the two interim champions in the light heavyweight division. So I assume the winner of this is going to take on the champion of Beterbiev versus Bivol, or the winner of Beterbiev versus Bivol when they fight again, which I assume that's happening soon. I haven't heard much more about that. And I would say they're going to have a rematch, but this is pretty much the fight to be the contender for that fight. I'll take on the winner of Beterbiev and Bivol when they fight again. So this will be an interesting one. I think David Benavidez will edge out David Morrell. I think he is a better fighter, but it could, who knows, David Morrell could surprise everybody and beat Benavidez. But Benavidez is just doing so well lately. Even going into the light heavyweight division, his first fight wasn't that bad. A lot of people criticized him, but I didn't think it was that bad. He got the win. He dominated. I mean, he's going up into a new division. What more can you ask of a guy? And he beat a good fighter, a good old fighter, old but experienced fighter. So no, I think he's doing well in that division. All right, last thing I want to talk about quickly before I end this stream. So again, Turki Al-Sheikh is just slowly dominating the boxing industry, and now he's bought the Ring magazine for $10 million from Oscar De La Hoya. I think initially Oscar De La Hoya bought it for like $7 million or so. There we go, $7 million back in 2007. So a while ago. Yeah, so now Turki Al-Sheikh owns it after buying it for $10 million. I don't know the influence. Well, this is obviously going to have an influence on the Ring magazine belt. I assume they're still affiliated, the Ring belt, with the actual belt, considering it's the Ring magazine. So this is just more stuff that Turki Al-Sheikh is just taking over in the boxing world. So initially, the WBA, so he's in cahoots with the WBA. So if you ever look at Boxing Rec no longer has a WBA in there. They don't display any champions in the WBA. They don't display the WBA belts because the WBA doesn't want to be affiliated with Boxing Rec anymore, and they've stated that as of the August of this year, sorry. So, and now the WBA are in cahoots with Turki Al-Sheikh, and they've created their own website with stats and everything else. Fight Facts, well, they didn't. This is something that Turki Al-Sheikh has taken over and purchased Fight Facts. Fight Facts has been around for a while, but they just haven't really been dominant in the market. I mean, it's always been Boxing Rec that has been the top dog in terms of stats and records and stuff like But now Turkey Allah Sheikh owns Fight Facts, and I think the WBA are a part of this Fight Facts. And if you go into the site, yep, it looks all right, and it's kind of flashy, but one thing I have noticed is just incorrect information. There's so much incorrect information. Like here, you look at the Fury versus Usyk fight, and then, yep, okay, the countries are correct. Ages, I think the age is wrong for one of them, maybe Usyk. I think he might be 36. So what do we got? Oh no, Usyk's 37. There we go. Fury's 36. So Fury's 36, so they got the age wrong for Fury. The stance, apparently they're both southpaws. I'm pretty sure Fury's orthodox. And then you look at the height. So apparently they're the same height. They're both 6'3", where Fury's like 6'9", and they have the same reach. So just, it's a flashy site, but just incorrect information. And yeah, they need to work on it. If they want, I don't know, I'd just still go back to BoxRec because they seem to have the right information, and you can almost always rely on them in terms of what they provide. But the only thing now is they don't have the WBA titles in there, so you can't see when someone is fighting for a WBA title, which is kind of annoying. But it is what it is now. Unfortunately, WBA are in cahoots with Fight Facts and Turkey Allah Sheikh. But that's it. And Turkey Allah Sheikh is just taking over everything. So now he's got the Ring magazine. He's got the WBA in his pocket. He's now trying to establish his own fighting record site. So yeah, what's next for Turkey Allah Sheikh? I don't know. But I'm sure it's coming soon. Anyway, that's all I got. Just a quick live stream. Hopefully I'm not so busy at the moment, so I'll be able to do this at least once a week. Keep everyone informed of what's going on. And yeah. Anyway, that's all I got. Thanks for tuning in. And stay tuned for my next video, which will be out soon. And I'll continue to put some videos up this week. And I will live stream maybe this week again. If not, next week. Anyway, that's all I got. Until next time. Peace out.